Good evening, and thank you for attending tonight's meeting of the Westerville City Schools Board of Education. The agenda for this evening's meeting will be displayed on the screens in the front of the room. There will be two opportunities to address the board this evening. The first being Agenda Item 7.01. The first set of public comments is relative to Agenda Items 8.01 through 12.03. Please state the agenda items you are referencing at the beginning of your comments. The second opportunity is Agenda Item 13.01. There is a sign-up sheet located on the table in the back of the room. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to address the board. And with that, Ms. Marshall, would you please call the roll?
Mrs. Altman?
Here.
Mrs. Davidson?
Here.
Mrs. Meyer?
Here.
Dr. Nestor Baker is absent. Mr. Bell?
Here. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Moving on to Agenda Item 3.01, nominations for the Office of President. May I please have a motion and a second to open the nominations?
So moved. Oh.
Okay, just to close? Okay. Nominations for the Office of President.
I would like to nominate Ms. Tracy Davidson.
Any others? Okay, may I have a motion and a second to close the nominations?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Marshall?
So this is a vote to close the nominations. Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yes. That motion carries. And now,
Would you like me to call for a vote?
yes, ma'am.
So this is for Tracy Davidson for president for the calendar year 2023. Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
I should say answer by yes or no. Sorry. Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson's president.
Congratulations.
Thank you all.
Okay. 3.4, may I have a motion for nominations for vice president, please? Okay. Okay. 3.4, may I have a motion for nominations for vice president? I feel like we did it the other way in the past. Yeah? I did. Oh, it doesn't, I'm so sorry. It says here, president to ask for a motion for nominations. Okay, so.
Just ask for nominations.
Okay, may I have a nomination for vice president?
I would like to nominate Ms. Christy Meyer for vice president.
Anybody else? Any other? May I have a motion to close?
So moved.
Second.
And this is to close the nominations. Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Now we will vote. So answer yes or no for Christy Meyer for Vice President for calendar year 2023. Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Vice President? Yay. Congratulations to our board leadership.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, are you guys good? Okay. All right, sorry about that. Figuring things out. Okay, district highlights and recognitions. We do not have any this evening, which takes us to board meeting minutes of January, 5.1, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Education regular meeting held on Monday, December 12th, 2022, as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Any comments here or suggestions, corrections? Hearing none?
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 6.1 reports, we do not have any. 7.1 public comments, we do not have any public comments this evening, which takes us to financials. 8.1 resolution to participate in state and federal funded programs for calendar year 2023. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
And
Ms. Marshall, will you talk to us a little bit about this?
Yes, President Davidson, members of the board. So in the organizational meeting, we always consider the state and federal programs. So these are a list. This is a list of all the state and federal programs that we currently participate in, and I recommend continuing to participate in them.
Okay. Any questions or comments here? Hearing none?
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 8.2, may I have a motion to approve the resolution request from the treasurer?
So moved?
Second.
And Ms. Marshall, you want to talk to us a little bit about this?
Yes, thank you, President Davidson, members of the board. So these are our annual requests that we have. So to purchase services and materials and to pay bills and all of those things as part of the normal operations of the district within the annual appropriation limits that the board approves, to transfer outstanding stale-dated checks to the general fund, which we keep track of, and to execute all contracts in the normal course of business within the appropriated amounts, advance funds if needed, which we don't typically do, and to invest any interim or inactive funds, to sign all payroll checks, general account checks, purchase orders, and contracts, and request amended certificates as needed throughout the year from the county auditors, and then request tax advances on any tax advances that are available to us from the county auditors, as well as tax abatement notification, and to dispense with reading of the minutes for each meeting because the board receives those well in advance of the next board meeting. So,
Any questions or comments? Hearing none?
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
8.3, a resolution to approve the Board of Education participation. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And Ms. Marshall will talk about all the things we participate with, or who we participate with.
Yes, thank you again. So the Ohio School Boards Association is a legal assistance fund. We participate every year. It's an annual cost of $250. That helps them put out legal guidance and that sort of thing to school districts, informational purposes, but still they have attorneys that review and put out the guidance. Westerville Chamber of Commerce, we're a member, the yearly cost of $1,255. And then the Ohio School Boards Association, the annual membership for including the briefcase subscription. And the yearly cost is $9,237.
Any questions or comments here? Hearing none?
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 8.4, resolution to appoint a delegate and an alternate delegate to 2023 Annual Ohio School Boards Association Business Meeting. May I have a motion?
You need the motion to include the delegate and alternate delegate.
Okay. So can we appoint someone that was appointed in the last year?
Anyone on the board?
Okay. Does anyone want to do it?
Well, I feel like I should probably do it since Jen filled in for me when that happened because I was ill. So I'm happy to do it this year.
Sounds good. Happy to be an alternate if that's helpful.
Thank you.
So a motion to appoint Delegate Christy Meyer and alternate Jen Altman to the 2023 Annual Ohio School Boards Association Business Meeting. May I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. And I apologize for fumbling through this. We do this once a year, and no, it's not. I wish I was better prepared, so I apologize. Moving on to the personnel consent agenda, 9.1, one-time pays. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And Carrie Dennis is joining us. Welcome.
Good evening, President Davidson, members of the board, Dr. Kellogg, and Mrs. Marshall. Tonight is just the single item of a one-time pay, and it is for teachers to participate in the science and social studies curriculum development, as well as the achievement records adoption review. The reason it's on tonight is that it starts this week.
Okay.
Any questions?
Hearing none.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. Old business, would it be okay if we took this as one? Okay. So 10.1 through 10.3, may I have a motion for old business?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments here or suggestions?
I'll just say I appreciated Tammy and her team going back and really thinking through some of our questions that we had at our last board meeting around some of these chronic health conditions and school stuff policy. So thank you.
Okay.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. We do not have any new business this evening, so we're going to move on to recommended action. 12.1, appoint a board designee as public records official. May I have a motion? Do you want, we know who it's going to be, right? Yeah. Can I put your name in there? Okay. Appoint Ms. Marshall as the board designee as the public records official. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yes.
We would have accepted volunteers, but that's... You ready?
Hearing none. Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 12.2, a resolution to establish the 2023 Board of Education meeting calendar. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
And do we have any comments here?
Yes, I would like to suggest an amendment to the meeting calendar, the removal of the July 24th, 2023 regular meeting.
Comments here?
So I need to move. Okay. At this time, I would move that we adjust the 2023 meeting calendar to remove the July 24th, 2023 regular scheduled meeting.
And can I just ask a question to make sure there's no administrative concerns about that?
None with that one. The other one I might point out to the board, and I think this is just a carryover, February 27th shows as a regular and a work session. I think that's a carryover from a work session last year.
Okay.
And I don't know if that necessarily needs an amendment, but I think more of a typo, but I just thought I'd point that out.
Then I would second that motion to remove the July 24th, 2023 meeting.
Yep.
Yes.
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 To accept it.
Yes.
Ready? Sorry. Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. 12.3, resolution to appoint legal counsel for the Board of Education. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
And I assume you'll be talking to us about this? Okay.
Yeah, so we, as part of the organizational meeting, every year we appoint legal counsel. The two firms that we work with are Rich and Gillis. They work with us on all of our Board of Revision stuff and any TIFs or tax abatements or anything like that. And then we have our general counsel, which is Bricker and Eckler, that works with us on all other things.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none?
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Altman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. Moving on to public comments, we do have one public comment this evening. I would like to welcome Mr. Mark Butler to the podium, and you will have 5 minutes to address the board.
Good evening. Good evening, board members. My name is Mark Butler. Excuse me. And I'm from the big city of Delaware, Ohio. I won't be long this evening, but I decided to follow Dr. King's statement years ago. He said, "The time is always right to do the right thing." And this evening, I wanted to do the right thing by giving my gratitude and thanksgiving to staff at Blendon Middle School. I've been working as a substitute teacher for a while in Central Ohio, subbed in many districts. But I have not subbed in a district like Westerville. I have not subbed at a middle school like Blendon. My first day at Blendon, I was received by the assistant principal in the classroom, and he acknowledged some of the rules and regulations and expectations that the students are to follow. I've never had a building principal come in the classroom to announce anything. But I want to show my appreciation. But it gets better. When I first got the call, I met a lady by the name of Tina. She sits at the front desk there. Beautiful smile, beautiful personality. And the first thing she said, I walked in the building, she said, "Good morning." I know it may not sound strange to some folks, but sometimes you don't even get a good morning when you get into a building, working as a substitute teacher. Then later on, a building principal came in the room to check on me. Never happened to me before. Mr. Harris. I want to thank Mr. Harris and all the staff members who supported me for the 3 days. 3 days I was at Blendon Middle School. And secondly, the students. Sometimes the students get a bad rap, but I got to give the Blendon Middle School students their props. Good young people, disciplined young people. But I know where the discipline comes from. It comes from the leadership at the middle school, standing fast, doing the right thing. So I want to thank you again. And lastly, I sure wish I could be part of the team at Blendon Middle School. I don't know the bureaucracy, but you know what? According to the strategic planning, and I want to call out dimension, I think number 3, where it says, student learning is driven by recruiting, developing, and retaining highly effective and skilled staff members. I believe I'm highly effective. I like working with young people. And young people seem to like working with me. So, I'll end my comments with that. Thank you again for your district and for all you do in your district. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Butler. Your comments were, what a great way to start the year, so I really appreciate that. And I'm not sure if you know, but we are opening another middle school, Minerva, France, so there will be plenty of openings, so please watch the website. What? Yeah. Someone's trying to tell me something in the back, and I'm missing it, so. Minerva Park, I'm so sorry. Correct me. Golly jeepers. I apologize. So lots of openings anyhow. Okay. That takes us to board comments this evening. And who would like to go for it first?
Okay. Do you want to go?
I can go. Mine will be very quick. Mr. Butler, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and share that with us, share with us this evening of your experience. So often, all we hear at our board meetings on Monday nights are all of the negative things that are taking place in our buildings. And so I want to thank you so much for coming and sharing your positive experience in Blendon. And special thank you to Kendall Harris and all of the staff and students at Blendon. But thank you for coming to be here this evening.
And if I can just follow up on that, I want to say thank you for being a substitute teacher.
Yes.
Substitutes are incredibly important, and I just really appreciate your passion and taking the time to come here, but just doing that in the first place, so thank you.
Well, I echo those comments. Thank you very much, Mr. Butler. So I just want to say welcome back. I can't believe it's 2023. And I hope everyone had time to relax and restore themselves. Just some legislative fun updates. We have a new Speaker of the House, Representative Jason Stevens. He is a Republican from Kitts Hill. And the Minority Leader, Representative Allison Russo from Upper Arlington, was reelected. In the Senate, they reelected Senator Matt Huffman, a Republican from Lima, and as the new minority leader is Senator Nikki Antonio. She's a Democrat from Lakewood. Some pertinent information, I think, for us, too, also in the Senate. The committee chair for education is Andrew Brenner, and he's a Republican from Powell. And then in the finance, Senator Matt Dolan is a Republican from Sugar Falls. But Governor was pretty active in signing some bills into laws. There was a few that I think will impact our district potentially, and one of them was House Bill 45. It would provide approximately $1.7 billion in elementary and secondary school emergency relief fund appropriation authority to schools, and would increase the disadvantaged pupil impact aid for fiscal year 2023. It provides $112 million for additional grants under the School Safety Grant Program, and the bill would increase certain weights to calculate transportation payments for school districts using miles driven for school bus service. It would restore the ability of school districts to conduct a raffle, fixing some change that happened in another bill, and would prohibit the Board of Building Standards from requiring the installation of storm shelters in school buildings, among many other things. Then House Bill 554, which was sponsored by Representative Mary Lightbody, who is a Democrat from our district, Westerville, and Adam Byrd, who's a Republican from New Richmond, and it requires the State Board of Education to issue 2-year temporary educator license to applicants with expired professional teacher certificates and professional educator license as long as certain requirements are met. And this is really to kind of deal with that shortage of substitute teachers and teachers. The bill also includes provisions that increases the eligibility age from 6 to 9 regarding the education of children experiencing developmental delays in state operating funds for districts and schools education such children. And it allows the children of a military family who participate in College Credit Plus courses to either complete the courses remotely or withdraw without academic or financial penalty if the military family has to relocate. And then House Bill 66 requires the state's tax expenditure report to include information on property tax exemptions and requires a periodic review of each tax or property tax exemption, and allows a school district to propose to renew an emergency property tax levy and a combination income and property tax levy in a single ballot question. And then, I think this is the last one. It is. House Bill 501 extends the use of municipal tax increment financing laws to township and allows townships to create a redevelopment tax increment equivalent fund for payments in lieu of taxes, both of which may have impact on school district local revenue. So that is all I have. They're back in session. Yay.
That's a lot. Thank you very much. I just want to thank all my colleagues for their support. I truly appreciate it, which takes us to liaison. So Dr. Kellogg and leadership, we can work on liaison positions. If you would please let me know where you would like to serve, maybe by Sunday, and then we can start working on that. We will do our best to fulfill whatever choice you have. And with that, I would just like to say Happy New Year and welcome back, and it's going to be a great year. So, the board will meet in regular session at 6 p.m. here on Monday, January 23rd at the Early Learning Center, and in a special session at 7 p.m. January 26th at the Everett Barn for our annual City Council Board of Education meeting. And with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bell?
Yes.
Mrs. Ottman?
Yes.
Mrs. Meyer?
Yes.
Mrs. Davidson?
Yes. It is 6:32, and we are adjourned.